The morning that we woke up to go to Disney World for the first time, it snowed. Welcome back everybody, it's time for another Sunday Storytime video. I'm not gonna say Sunday night Storytime video anymore because it's not Sunday night right now when I'm recording this, and I post it in Germany Sunday night, but I know that for most of you it comes out like during the day. So it's just Sunday Storytime now. How's that? And before I go any further, I have a very, very important message. Happy birthday, Hari! Hari is one of my biggest fans. He writes to me like every day, and I just wanted to take the time to tell him happy birthday. It's his birthday tomorrow, so happy birthday, Hari. Thanks for your support, and talk to you soon. All right, getting into the Storytime video, I wanted to start telling you about some of my first times, and people have been asking me about it too, like my first cruise and things like that. And if you're really interested and impatient about finding out about my first cruise, I made videos about it. So just search for my videos about the Monarch of the Seas. You can see a younger, less experienced, and somewhat skinnier Morgan experiencing the Monarch of the Seas. And you might notice that I was taking a lot of motion sickness medication back then. So if I seem a little bit different, it's because of all those factors combined. But today I want to tell you about the first time that I went to Disney World. Do me a favor, while you're watching this, write some of the memories that you have of your first trip to Disney in the comments below, because I really love to hear about them. It's like, you know, living through each other vicariously. Did you have a good trip? Did you have a bad trip? Like, was there one thing that you really wanted to do that you didn't get to do? Or, you know, one thing that you didn't even know was there and were totally surprised to see? Write those things in the comments below, because I like to hear that kind of stuff. First times of anything are usually pretty special, and I think anybody's first trip to Disney World or any Disney park is of course a really special thing, right? And I have to say, for me, it's interesting because you know I'm a huge Disney fan, but when I think back to my very first trip, I wouldn't say that I've got like fantastic memories of it. So it's interesting that I'm still such a big fan. You know what I mean? When you talk about first impressions and stuff like that, I mean, recently I talked about my first impression of the MSC cruise line, and that because it was so bad, I probably would never cruise with MSC again. And yeah, but yet I still love Disney World. So my first trip to Disney World was when I was in grade school, and I want to say it was 6th grade. And we went around spring break time. Yeah. And it was my entire family. My mom and dad were still together. My mom and dad, my older brother, and my younger sister. And it wasn't like a Disney vacation, it was a Florida vacation. So, I mean, the kind of Disney vacations I do now, where I go to, or where we go to Orlando and spend like 1 week staying on Disney property and only going to Disney parks. It wasn't like that at all. I couldn't tell you how many days it was, but it was probably only like four or five. It wasn't, I really don't think it was a whole week. And we split the time up between 2 hotels. One hotel was someplace in Orlando. I want to say, you know, like maybe it was International Drive or something like that. I really don't remember where it was. It was like a Super 8 or a Motel 1, one of these low-level buildings with just 2 floors, and to get to the room you have to, you know, walk outside, kind of like the Disney moderate resorts. But it was not a Disney resort. It was not anything special. It was just a place that we slept. But we did have kind of a family suite. Anyways, then for the second 2 nights or whatever, we stayed down, I think in Tampa Bay, in a hotel on the beach. And we also went to Busch Gardens, and I have a very funny picture of me at Busch Gardens, and if I can find it, you're looking at it right now. Alright, so what I remember is being really excited about finally getting to go to Disney World. Of course, you know, Disney had a lot of international or national ad campaigns, so even up in Minnesota, we knew all about Disney World. How could you not know about Disney World? And there was a girl that I had been going to school with since I was in kindergarten, Dana, who went to Disney World with her family every year and always came back and told these great stories and had pictures to share, and it just seemed like something I was really interested in, even though I had never been to a theme park like that. I mean, what is there to really compare to that? And back when I was a kid, you know, like in the 80s, you know, there wasn't things like Universal Studios and stuff like that. Anyways, even though I didn't really know what I was getting into, just the whole hype and the whole way that the commercials, you know, showed what was going on down there made me just really excited to go there. Keep in mind, at this time, I had only ever been to probably 2 other amusement parks. One at Como Zoo in Minnesota, which was just sort of a small little amusement park with like 4 or 5 rides. And our big amusement park in Minnesota, Valley Fair. I've made a video about that too, maybe 2 videos. Search for them in my library. But like I said, nothing quite like Disney, and I had not yet ridden any roller coaster. I know, that sounds really strange to me now, but 6th grade and I had not yet ridden a roller coaster. And I did ride my first roller coaster on this trip to Florida, but it was not at Disney World. That's a whole other story time video. A whole other first time video, my first roller coaster. All right, another first time, or first thing this was for me, this first trip to Florida was also my very first time flying in like a jet. Like going to the airport, getting in a jet, taking off and flying someplace. So that was also new for me as well. And I remember being really excited about that. Not nervous at all. I know some people are really nervous about flying, but I was just really psyched about it. I don't remember landing in Florida. I don't remember checking into the hotel. All those things that like are really like stick out to me nowadays. I don't really remember any of that. But I remember on the first night that we were in Florida, we got in our rental car and we drove as far into the Disney property as we could. And it was late. I mean, it was probably like 10 o'clock at night. It was like way past our bedtime, even though it was vacation. And but I just was so happy that that we were going to be like on Disney property, and I didn't realize how massive it was. I'm sure my whole family didn't. And I remember we got to like probably where you can get to like the main parking lot for the Magic Kingdom. Back then there was only Magic Kingdom, and Epcot was like brand new. Yeah, Epcot was probably brand new, like a year old, if that. We got as far as we could, and then, you know, everything was closed, so we turned around, and I remember thinking, oh, you know, just back there someplace, I'm sure I could see the castle, but the lights are probably turned off now, because I had no idea how far it was from where the, you know, like the main parking lot is for just the Magic Kingdom to the actual Magic Kingdom. And if you've never been there, it would be impossible from that vantage point to see any of the Magic Kingdom at all, because first of all, they're just so far away and there's so many other things between there and there. All right, so that was like the very first time that I got close to Disney World, and I'm pretty sure that directly the next day is the day that we went to the Magic Kingdom. And this is where some of like the disappointment started. We went down to Florida. Like I said, I'm pretty sure it was spring break. Freezing cold up in Minnesota, probably like 8 feet of snow on the ground, 20 degrees below zero, and we were excited to go down to Florida where it's always sunny and warm. Right? Wrong. The morning that we woke up to go to Disney World for the first time, it snowed. I mean, how many times has it snowed in Florida? And we were there on that day. And I'm not talking about like the fake, you know, like soap suds snow that comes during the Christmas celebration. I'm talking about like real snow. It was that cold. First of all, it was disappointing because we wanted to go someplace warm and sunny. And second of all, we didn't have the right clothing for that. It was, I think, if I remember correctly, on the morning when we went there, it wasn't even 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And we were just freezing because we only had shorts and like a light jacket, and I just remember being cold. When I think back now, I remember coming home from the trip and thinking that we didn't really see a lot of the Magic Kingdom. I remember feeling like we missed so many things. But when I go through my head, because I have a pretty clear memory of everything that we did see, I realized we did see a lot. And these are the rides that, or the attractions that we saw. I know we did the railroad. I know we did Peter Pan. Of course, It's a Small World. We did the Sky Ride, which was still running back then. My dad and my brother and sister did Space Mountain a couple times. I was too scared. And during that, my mom and I rode the People Mover probably like 10 times. Just kept going around and around and around. And we kept thinking, you know, if we look closely, we'll be able to see them on the rocket in Space Mountain. And of course, if you've ever ridden Space Mountain, I mean, now you can't see anything at all, but back then you could see a little bit of it, but there's no way you would really be able to see people you know unless they were going up the lift in those few seconds that you're going through that scene or coming down those drops. But yeah, we didn't see them. We also did the submarine journey, which was still around back then. And I remember we waited in line for the Haunted Mansion, and we're really close to getting to the inside part. We were already around the curve, and then the cast member came out and said, "We're having a technical difficulty. We have to stop the line, and we can't tell you how long it's gonna take to get it moving again." And I remember my dad was like, "Oh, screw this, then we're gonna go do something else." And we never went back to there, so we didn't do that, but we did also do Pirates of the Caribbean. I think we did that twice. And Jungle Cruise. And the go-karts were the, you know, the speedway. So, oh, you know, I'm sure we also did the teacups, now that I think of it. It's weird that you know, like 10-year-old Morgan felt like that wasn't a lot. I know that before we went, I really had psyched myself up. I really wanted to do Big Thunder Mountain. But then when we got there, I was just too scared. I couldn't get up the courage to do it. And I had heard so many things about Space Mountain being just like absolutely terrifying, and so there was no way I was going on that. And it's just so weird to think back now that I wouldn't have wanted to do that, and that, like, I mean, can you imagine? How crazy does this sound? I spent an entire day at the Magic Kingdom and didn't ride Space Mountain or Big Thunder Mountain. It blows my mind. I know that I have at least one picture of us from this trip. And if I can find it, you're looking at it right now. It's me and my mom and my brother and sister in front of Goofy. And you can see, if you can see it, you'll see I had curly hair. Yes, that was an idea I had. I got a perm, as you did back in the 80s. Other things I remember about that trip, other than just being cold, I remember we ate at the Crystal Palace. And I don't remember if it was a buffet restaurant back then or not. Does anybody else know? Was the Crystal Palace back like in the early 80s or the mid 80s a buffet, or was it a normal restaurant? Because I don't remember the food at all, but I remember we were sitting on, they had some kind of outdoor seating at the time. I feel like it was in the back of the restaurant. From where we were sitting, I could see water, and I looked down in the water and I could see tracks from which I'm assuming was either the Jungle Cruise, but I don't think it could have been the Jungle Cruise, or it was the tracks to the old swan boats that don't exist anymore and probably didn't exist then. I don't remember them. At least I don't remember when they went extinct. But then on the other side of that water was the Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse, which we also did. And we also did Dumbo. I mean, look at all these things we did, and I still felt like we didn't do anything. That's so weird. Why is that? I think it's probably only because I didn't do Big Thunder Mountain. I don't remember how late we stayed. I don't remember if we saw any fireworks. But I remember we had a good time. I remember being cold. I remember having a fun time with my family. Yeah, it's just so weird to me, and I haven't really thought about a lot of this before I sat down here to talk to you guys about it. It's just weird that I have this like underlying feeling that that first trip was a disappointment, but when like I said, when I think of everything that we did, I mean, how realistic would it be nowadays to, like, with little Magic Kingdom experience, and back then there was no fast passes. I mean, how many attractions did we get on? A lot. Those are my memories of my very first trip to Disney World. I also have 2 other like first Disney World trips in my head. I'm not going to tell you about them in detail right now, but I just thought I'd mention it, and maybe I'll do them in another story time, because they are also, for me, just as pivotal. And what I mean is, those trips were the ones that turned me into the Disney fan that I am today. The first one being my second trip to Disney World, and that was the summer after I graduated high school, so 1992. And that was a real, like, traditional Disney vacation like I do nowadays. My dad and my stepmom and my sister went down to Orlando, and we stayed in the then almost or relatively new Port Orleans resort, and did, I think, 5 days with park hopper passes. And that was like the first time we went to Epcot, and we saw the original version of Illuminations, which I feel like was so much better than the one they do now, where all like the nations lit up and then they all had their moments. And we had, like I said, we had park hopper passes and all that. And I finally rode Big Thunder Mountain. I finally rode Space Mountain, and it was just a really, really great, magical time. So that's also very important. Well, and then I worked there a couple years later, and then I didn't go back for like 15, almost 20 years. And then Marcus and I went together for one of our first big vacations together. And that was, of course, absolutely fantastic, and now we go all the time, almost once a year. I know, I'm lucky. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up here, and thanks for listening. Thanks for sitting down with me here on this Sunday. And if you have any ideas or any things that you would like me to tell you about for a story time, let me know. As I said, I would like to try to keep it sort of vacation or destination related. But if you have any other ideas, let me know. Maybe someday I will start a second channel and just tell you more about my personal life and my career and things like that. But here on the very unofficial travel guides, let's talk about traveling. I'll see you next week, and you know what? I'm going to do a secret word. The secret word today is Wally, because I have my Wally thing, my Wally disc here. Wally. Check back later this week for another Freedom of the Seas video. Bye-bye.